Hello there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Weezy and this is Weezy's Lifestyle. Thank you for joining me. So today's video is about Piper Nigrum, the peppercorn plants, the plant that produces black pepper, the stuff that, the spice that you grind and put on to flavour your foods, black peppercorns, if you're not familiar. So the Piper Nigrum is a member of the same family of the Piper beetle, has very similar leaf shape and the vining habits of other Piper families. So it's related to the beetle leaf, the ban family, but it's not consumed obviously for its leaves. It's consumed for the pepper, the drupes as they call them, and this is widely grown in India, not so much Bangladesh, but India does export a lot of black pepper. So it's grown on a commercial scale there. It's grown in Vietnam, in Cambodia and in Malaysia. So typically those Southeast Asian countries have a very similar climate, and that's how they get to produce these this spice. So back in 2018 I got this plant originally from my husband's uncle. He I think he imported this plant or was given this plant by another person, and this variety he grew on his rooftop, and he sent me pictures of it, and I asked him could I have a cutting from the plant. He very kindly sent back in 2018 an air layer from his original plant. I'll show you a picture of the original plant, how big it was, and I'll add the picture of what this plant looked like when I received it. So it was an air layer, and it had little immature peppercorns attached to the plant. So that was a nice thing to see, you know, a healthy air layer with fruits attached. So there are different varieties of peppercorn. I wasn't aware at that stage, but when I got this plant, my husband was in Bangladesh on holiday. I also ordered some more Piper Nigrum plants, but from a plant nursery, and those two plants came alongside these, and they look different. The leaf shape was very different, was broader, it was lighter in colour, and they were more of a heart shape. And what I mean by heart shape is I'm using this Piper beetle as an example. This isn't a Nigrum plant, but the leaf shape was heart shape, as in they have this like sort of rounded shoulders, if you like. And if you look on this plant, I'll bring that a bit closer, there is none of that in comparison. You know, it doesn't have that pointed, it doesn't have much of a point as well. And these Piper Nigrum plants that I got from Bangladesh were typical of what you get in India, because a few years before I'd ordered plants from India, and they looked exactly like these two additional ones. And see if I can find a picture of the three together. I think the picture doesn't show it very clearly, but I think the one in the foreground, the leaf of the plant on the foreground of this picture is one from the Indian, what I would say the Indian variety of a black pepper, and this is the Sarawak variety. And how did I find that out? Well, because I noticed the shape difference, the leaf shape difference, I did a bit of research into different varieties of pepper, and this picture appeared, and it was the Sarawak from in Malaysia, Sarawak state of Malaysia, that grow this variety, and they actually call it Sarawak pepper. So I've got the Sarawak variety, and I did have the Indian variety. Actually 2 or 3 times I had the Indian variety. They never seemed to do very well because all those plants were grafted. I'm not sure why they graft these vining plants, but they never did well for me. They always seemed to fail at the graft. They would produce a leaf and then they would drop one. They never seemed to have a full length vine with lots of leaves on them. So they eventually died off, and I was left with the Sarawak variety that you see here today. So what happened to that plant? This isn't the original plant. This is an air layer off the original air layered plant. So I did sort of experiment with getting this plant to grow healthily, and I created this tower that I'd seen a fellow grower who had got Piper Nigrum create for his plant. So I did a little modified version of my own. I'll put a picture up of what that looked like there. It worked for a while, and in fact it helped me get these this air layer, and I had two more created from that tower, because the roots would feed into the tower, and I had a decent sized root on 3 sections, so I cut those off, and then I had ready-made peppercorn Piper Nigrum cuttings or air layers. And what happened to the main plant though, eventually that big tower, because I had to keep that moist and not dry out, it was the base was attached to the bottom of the pot, and so all that moisture was going into the pot. It wasn't allowing the root area to get dry at any point. Constantly wet eventually led to root rot, so the main plant died. Luckily I had the cuttings, and I kept one. The other two, I think one I did a swap with someone for another plant, and the other I sold. So this plant, I have featured it when it too developed root rot. I'm not sure what happened. It actually had scale insect as well, so it was being attacked on all sides. It developed some stem rot, root rot. So this was back in 2022, I think it was late 2021 that it was starting to have problems. In 2022, when I had to sort of repot it, put it into orchid bark. So prior to that, they weren't in orchid bark, it was in sort of standard compost and perlite. So it's pure orchid bark, nothing else in there, no perlites or anything like that. And it was in a shallow cut because the roots were practically non-existent. So minimum sort of substrate. Eventually, as the roots grew in the cup, I added more orchid bark, and then recently I've repotted it into a slightly bigger pot, and I think it is due for another repot. You see there are roots coming out the bottom there, or you know, yeah, slightly bigger pot. I'm not going to go up too much. And this has been moved from the spot I had here. I had it on this windowsill, and there are days where it can get really hot and sunny, and I noticed the leaves would turn brown and get a little bit crispy. So it's in the kitchen, and since it was, say, about this height, it's been in the kitchen, and all this is new growth. So it doesn't get bright morning sun when the sun appears, but it does get the late afternoon sun, but it's just getting normal daylight, but it is slightly more humid. Obviously it's in the kitchen, cooking going on, kettles boiling, there's steam in the air, so a slightly more humid environment, and I think that's what it likes. As I don't spray mist this plant, I just leave it as is, and I do water it quite frequently because the water just drains out. It's not held in the pot, so I drench it a few times, 2 or 3 times a week. And the only problem is I seem to be getting lots of aphids, unfortunately. I don't know if you can see if there are any on there, but I have to wash the leaves off constantly. So will I ever get peppercorns off this plant? That is the question. I would love to, and whether I should put it under grow lights during the winter months, because I notice obviously most of these plants to slow down during the winter period. The aim is to one day to get this to flower and produce peppercorns, and I'm not going to put this in the grow tent. I have tried that in the past, and it seemed to attract more fungus and mold, so it's not going in the grow tent. I don't think it likes the purple lighting in there. But the white LED light that I featured a couple of days ago, come the darker, the short days ahead, come winter, November, December, I may pop it under there, you know, for a couple of hours in the evening, just, you know, to keep it going. So, anybody else growing Piper Nigrum in the UK? What's your setup? Have you successfully got peppercorns from your plant? If you have, please let me know how you did it, or share a video. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. So please subscribe if you haven't already, press the like button, share with your friends. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.